You're listening to the Packernet Podcast Network.
U.S. Cellular has noticed the way we use our phones has gotten ironic. We try to put our phones down for dinner, but the menu's on a QR code. That's ironic. We hit like on social posts that we don't actually like, which is ironic. Which is why U.S. Cellular created Us Mode, to help us reconnect with each other and use our phones less ironically. A phone company wanting people to use their phones less is ironic. Let's find us again with Us Mode from U.S. Cellular. Visit uscellular.com/built-for-us to get started.
You're a podcast listener, and this is a podcast ad. Reach great listeners like yourself with podcast advertising from Lips and Ads. Choose from hundreds of top podcasts offering host endorsements, or run a reproduced ad like this one across thousands of shows to reach your target audience with Lips and Ads. Go to lipsandads.com now. That's LIBSYN ads.com.
You feel this nervousness on the phone there?
Sir, I've been trying to make an urgent phone call up there.
Well, I don't think it's something I want to do on an overseas phone.
You gotta make some phone calls. Hang up the phone. Prank caller.
Ladies and gentlemen, welcome once again to Packernet After Dark. This is the call-in show, the Packernet Podcast Network. If you'd like to call in, if you'd like to participate in the show, please feel free to do so. The phone number here is 608-501-0718. New callers go directly to the front of the line. We don't have any new callers today. Again, we're going to be sticking with the newest calls. If we run out, which we're kind of on the verge of being maybe too short, don't have quite enough calls, we'll start going backwards. But we're kind of going back into that's really old news territory. So we'll do that in case of emergency. Again, like I said, if I skipped your call and it's still relevant and you still want to talk about it, just shoot it to the front of the line. All right, let's get started with Seth from Iowa.
Hey, Ryan. What's going on?
Hey.
I had a couple things for you. One is, well, actually, maybe a few things. I'll start with Isaiah McDuffie. I think Edgerrin Cooper will take him over, but I think a lot of people forget how young McDuffie is and how good he was for us last year in total tackles and aggressiveness. So, I don't know. I wouldn't be surprised if he plays a bigger role than a lot of people think. The other thing I want to talk about, speaking competition.
Well, I think, as of right now, he is the number 2 linebacker. I would assume he's going to lose that job to Edgerrin Cooper. Edgerrin has been injured, so he hasn't been getting a ton of opportunities, but he's been very good from when he's been out there. And by the way, I think all of us like McDuffie. There's really no doubt about that, but I think it would be a major disappointment if Edgerrin Cooper was not given a prominent role, and obviously Quay Walker is going to be given a prominent role. However, in a base 4-3 defense, and you're going to be in base a large percent of the time, less than 50, but still a large percent, Isaiah McDuffie is going to be that guy, not to mention different packages where you might have this guy in or that guy in or whatever. So McDuffie's certainly going to have a role, but I really think he's going to be relegated back to what he was when we had Devondre Campbell, right? So he was the number 3 guy behind Quay and Devondre. Now instead of Devondre, we have Edgerrin Cooper. I think if we think of that as sort of a 1-to-1 swap, then we're probably thinking relatively rightly. Now maybe McDuffie does get a little bit more than what he had in that situation because he has more experience, but I do not think he's going to be the number 1 or 2 linebacker. We'll have to see to the extent of which Edgerin's injuries and how he's performing after the preseason games and whatnot. Maybe we'll get a better idea. Still relatively early. I have not heard a lot about Edgerrin. Mostly good, but again, we're talking maybe 4 or 5 separate notes. So he could be very far away, and I'd have no way of really knowing that was the situation. So, but yeah, I think McDuffie continues to play a role.
Family night, Carlson was 7 for 7 and Joseph was 6 for 7. But I know that Carlson missed the one at the end there. But it was a bad snap, I think. So do you think they just didn't count him because of that? And if so, then I wish they would have just had him kick it again. The other thing I thought that was interesting is...
I'm not sure I fully understand what you mean. At the end, he kicked a field goal and he made it, and then they made him kick it again because they had iced the kicker. So they didn't. I mean, it wouldn't make sense to say he made it, but that didn't count because it was a bad snap, and then the next one does count. They did it because they called a timeout prior to, if that's what you're referring to.
Greg Joseph has had a pretty solid career, like nothing crazy, but I'd say he's like, if you're going to grade him like a B to a B plus kicker, and based on his stats, and he's actually only 29, and surprisingly, Anders Carlson is 26. Probably because kickers stay in college for longer. So I thought that was really interesting. Like, if you're going to look at it from an age perspective, 3 years difference. I mean, it is 3 years, but on a kicker, is that really that big of a deal? So then the question I ask myself is, who do I feel more confident in for consistency, and who do I think has the higher ceiling, better long-term potential? I think without a doubt, Carlson has the better long-term potential. I think he's got a huge leg. I think he's got a lot of growth in him, and he's about even with Joseph now, so if he takes a step up, he'd be better. The thing I struggle with is if you told me that Carlson's going to be more consistent, and I know he has a leg too, or not Carlson, sorry, if Joseph's going to be more consistent, I'm very tempted to take Joseph for the year, mainly because if we're serious about a Super Bowl, we can't afford a missed field goal like Carlson had against the Niners. And I know that was last year, but that's a difference between bouncing early in the playoffs and making it to the Super Bowl, maybe winning the Super Bowl. You got to make those kicks. And the other thing is the extra point struggle. So we'll see how that goes in the preseason. But I don't know. I'm really having a hard time deciding who I'd want. Early on, I was on the Carlson no matter what. But the more I think about it, the more I've looked at stats and age and stuff, having a little bit of a harder time with it. So anyways, let me know your thoughts. Hope you're doing well. Talk to you later.
Well, I mean, there's a few things. I mean, number one, we don't know anything about consistency. I mean, I understand saying that we have to take it seriously because it's very important to not miss kicks, especially in critical situations, but there is no kicker that isn't going to occasionally miss, even in big games. Mason Crosby missed field goal kicks. Not very many, but he did miss, I think, 3. He's 28 of 31 on field goals in the postseason. And perfect on extra points, which Anders is already imperfect. He's 7 of 8. But still, I mean, Greg Joseph is not going to be perfect. You can't expect anybody to be perfect. But in terms of, which one do we think is probably going to be more consistent? I think the other thing to keep in mind is that what we're seeing in the training camp right now, we can't assume is just real life. If I sound a little short here, this is my third time trying to frickin' record this because the settings are all jacked up. So if I get a little annoyed, I'm sorry. Here's the deal with Greg Joseph. Number one, if I were to phrase this, I wouldn't phrase it in such a way that makes Greg Joseph look like some kind of a kicking god because he's not. The way that I would phrase it is we need to determine if we're completely done with Anders Carlson. If we're completely done with Anders Carlson, he's garbage, he's going to lose us games, and he's never going to get any better, then we have to let go of him and get stuck with Greg Joseph. And I use that exact language because that's how it would actually be. What I don't want this to be, and that's a perfect, if that's where you're at, that's fine. What I don't want is for people to view it as, Anders might be something special, but we don't know, and I don't want to miss this golden opportunity with this guy, Greg Joseph, who's like this elite kicker. Greg Joseph is not in any way an elite kicker. He's having a decent camp, but let's be very clear. He's been in the NFL for 5 years. He's been on 3 different teams. He was with Cleveland in his first year. They let him go. Then he went to Tennessee, and they let him go. Then he went to Minnesota. He was there for 3 years, and they let him go. By the way, Anders Carlson right now is sitting at 79%, which everybody's very upset about. It's not a great number. Part of that has to do with the hurricane conditions of the other day, but whatever. 79%. Greg Joseph's career percentage is 82.6%. It's really no different whatsoever than where Anders Carlson is at right now. And his extra point percentage is 90.1%. Anders, who we all admit was god-awful last year, was 87.2%. So he was 31st out of 34 kickers. Do you know where Joseph would land? One spot ahead of Anders Carlson as far as his extra point average. 90.1%? Yes, 90.1% would be one spot ahead of Anders Carlson. So Anders was 31st, he would be 30th if you took his career average and just plopped it right there. His extra point percentage this past year was 94.7%. Before that was 87. Before that was 90. So this past year in Minnesota was his best year with extra points, right? It was his absolute best year, 94.7. Last year he ranked 23rd for all kickers. By the way, 11 kickers were at 100%. That's not unusual. Actually, 10 kickers, because one of them only kicked like one time. 10 kickers at 100%. So 1 in 3 just did not miss extra points, more or less. So again, I have no issue essentially with people saying, I don't think Anders Carlson is going to be that dude. In which case, we're just going to find some veteran that's not great, but maybe could set a relatively high floor, although I don't think Greg Joseph has set a high floor. I think he has a pretty low floor. But if that's the direction you want to go, then that's fine. I don't view it that way. I see it as Anders has a chance to be a good kicker. He's our only chance to find a good kicker. And if he's not that guy, then he's not that guy. But right now, we don't have that option. As far as I know, there are no available kickers with a really high success rate. But, you know, that's for everybody else to kind of determine. I know a lot of people are just done with them. Maybe. I don't know.
What's up, Ryan? What's up, everybody? In Packers Land, it's Aaron from Eau Claire.
What's up?
Hope everything's going well. Just wanted to say appreciate all the coverage of the training camp and preseason. I called in a little while ago, but I might get skipped, which is totally fine. So I'm just calling back to say that my wife and I got tickets to the game against the Houston Texans at Lambeau Field in October, I think it is. And we got tickets through the University of Wisconsin Eau Claire Alumni Association. They bought a bunch of tickets, and then we'll be able to do like an all-you-can-eat brunch buffet with open bar the morning of. And then we'll go to the game and enjoy a home game at Lambeau Field against the Houston Texans, which I'm really excited about because that game should be a pretty entertaining game, considering it's Jordan Love versus what's
Stroud.
his name? CJ Stroud, which two very fun to watch, talented young quarterbacks and up-and-coming teams. So I think it'll be a fun game to go to. If anyone has recommendations, or if you have recommendations on some restaurants to visit in Green Bay or some places that are must-check-out places, let me know. Otherwise, super, super excited for everything. And here's to an exciting season.
Well, that sounds pretty awesome. I've mentioned this before. I don't live in the area. I've been up there less times than people from out of state, even out of the country. I've probably been there more times than I have. I've been to Green Bay, 4 times in my life, something like that, and 2 of which would have come when I was a little kid. And even so, usually it's because I'm within driving range. As soon as the game's over, you hop in your car and you leave. So we don't stay. We don't get a hotel. So I've never actually stayed in Green Bay. One time we did for family night, but I don't think we went out to eat anywhere or anything. I do know everybody talks about Kroll's. I don't know much about it. It seems like a diner, but I'm not going to tell you what it's like because I don't know. Then there's some fancier, newer places. Hinterland, Tavern in the Sky, those places in that Titletown area are also I've heard people talk about. But ask some of the locals, I guess, or maybe not the local. I don't know, because the locals probably won't tell you those. Now, maybe they will. I don't know. But there's those places you got to try once, even if they're not the greatest. It's just kind of, they're known for this thing, and the locals probably never go there because they're like, oh, it's freaking, I'm over it. I'm not going there anymore. But yeah, I do hope that it's, by the time that game rolls around, it's expected to be a massive game. That's what we hope it is, because if it's not that, then, you know, people probably don't see those as the top teams. And I'm hoping that, again, by the time that rolls around, you're looking at some people talking about this is a potential Super Bowl this year. You know what I mean? So we'll see. I hope it's a big game. I'm already nervous for it. It hasn't even come around. I mean, that's obviously going to be tough. It's maybe the toughest game we're going to see this year. And, you know, it really is. It's one of those, you know, not that you can't win a Super Bowl if you lose it, but it's one of those that you look at it and go, if we're really a Super Bowl contender, if this is like a real thing, this is the kind of game, these are the kinds of games that you need to win. So we'll see how it goes. It is at home. That's one of the benefits of this schedule, is most of the ones that you look at and go, man, that's going to be tough, those are at home. All right, why don't we take our first break? We've got 5 calls left, so we'll see if we can stretch these out to be the whole thing. We'll take a break. We'll be right back.
Yo, Ryan, it's your uncle, Rico.
What's up?
Hey, I was just listening, and you're talking about, I can't remember, one of the guys recommended Deadpool and Wolverine. Yeah, I'm going to say you're not going to like it.
Okay.
I liked it, but I don't think you'll like it, because it is 100% comedy, and it's kind of, tons of action, but it's like comedy action. It's like not dramatic action. It's like, yeah, it's a comedy. And I liked it okay, but I'm more of a, I think like you expect a superhero to do superhero things, not to goofy things. And Logan, check out Logan sometime if you haven't watched that. That's the Wolverine one, but I really enjoyed that, and I think that'd be more up your alley. Try that one out. All right, then. I'm not saying don't watch Deadpool, but Deadpool he is a goofball, a sexual goofball. Actually, everything is sexual. All right, Rico out. Later.
Reminds me of Robert California. I won't elaborate, but if you know, you know. Yeah, it doesn't sound like something I would enjoy, but I think first of all, I want to give it a shot, because I've been on this crusade to make sure that there aren't movies that most people have watched that I haven't watched. And so there's been a lot where I've been like, dude, this looks stupid, and then I watch it, and then I'm like, well, there's a reason this was considered a legendary movie. Despite the fact that it looks old and stupid, it was actually a really solid movie. Also, I ended up watching a horror movie. I don't remember what it was called, but right out of the gate, it became clear. It's like my least favorite thing. A lot of horror is so low budget, the acting is really bad. And in this one, the acting was so bad, you almost kind of get the impression that it's kind of on purpose a little bit. Like it's almost a little comedic or kind of goofy, or like, oh, and it really annoyed the crap out of me. But I stuck it out, and I kind of enjoyed it. Even though it's something that I never would have thought I would have enjoyed, it was decent. There were a couple little creepy things in there and whatnot. It wasn't bad. It was everything I would think I wouldn't want in a horror movie. Like, it was mostly gore and comedy, and not even comedy, just bad acting and whatever. But it was decent. So bottom line is, generally not my style. Doesn't mean I'm not really going to like it, but I have a feeling I'm not going to. Again, like Guardians of the Galaxy, I don't like. And that's everybody's favorite. Like, everybody loves Guardians of the Galaxy. It's just goofy. You know, you hired comedians and you make a lot of jokes, and the action is just kind of like a side note to the dialogue and whatnot. And so I struggle to get into it, but I'll give it a shot. I need to give it a shot. It's in the canon, and so I'll check it out. I do remember, you said Logan. I remember a long time ago the Wolverine movie. Maybe, I think Logan is the second one, isn't it? But I remember that being pretty decent. I can't really remember because it was a long time ago, but I remember quite a while ago a Wolverine movie coming out, and it was pretty okay. But yeah, if you take a comedian and you put him in a suit and you're like, okay, we're going to make an action movie, it's like, I'm going to hate this. I'm going to hate it so much. All right, why don't we take our first break right here? We got some Chris from Alabama coming up. We got a couple calls from him, so we will get it rock and rolling. Twitter, not Patreon, please. If you wouldn't mind supporting me on Patreon, let me check that real quick, see if anybody has. Patreon.com/Pack_Daddy. But go to Twitter, X, go to my profile there, and if you wouldn't mind, check out the pinned tweet where we are supporting a family. Again, a listener, his grandparents' house burned down. It's one of the more devastating things. You know, of all the people that you don't want bad things to happen to, it's your grandma and grandpa. You know what I mean? They've been nothing but good people. They've cared for you. They bring you all the candy and they slip you $10 once in a while, you know, when you're a kid. And then their house burns down. So, and again, they're Packer fans on top of that. So please do me a favor. Head over there. Anything you can do, please try to help out. Let me see if I can get some names in here real quick. So we got Scott Henning, Joseph Pereno, Dennis Dockery, and Adam Magana all donated. I'm going to assume you're all listeners to the show because all those came in quickly after I reshared it. Dennis, I believe, is a Lions fan, but he's always hanging out and having a good time with us. He's always like fans of the Vikings and the Lions. There are some that kind of like hang out and they're like, I just hang out with the Packers a lot. It's no big deal. Or either that or he's just in Detroit. No, I think he's a Lions fan, legit. I don't remember. Sorry, Dennis, I don't remember. But anyways, we're up to $1,270, which is a pretty solid start. They're trying to get to $15,000. And again, one of the biggest things you can do is share it. Because if you can give $5, that's great. But if you can go find 10 people to give $5, that's even better. So anyways, we'll take our first break. We'll be right back.
U.S. Cellular has noticed the way we use our phones has gotten ironic. We try to put our phones down for dinner, but the menu's on a QR code. That's ironic. We hit like on social posts that we don't actually like, which is ironic. Which is why U.S. Cellular created Us Mode, to help us reconnect with each other and use our phones less ironically. A phone company wanting people to use their phones less is ironic. Let's find us again with Us Mode from U.S. Cellular. Visit uscellular.com/built-for-us to get started.
This episode is brought to you by our good friends at NFL Sunday Ticket on YouTube TV. I'm sure by now you've all gotten back into your Sunday routines, but they could be even better. With NFL Sunday Ticket and YouTube TV, you get the most live NFL games all in one place, every game, every Sunday. And you can even watch up to 4 different games at once with multi-view, one of my favorite inventions of this decade. It's exactly what you need to catch all the action. Make your Sundays more magical. And also, YouTube TV is great. I got it this year. It's awesome. Sign up now at youtube.com/BS. Device and content restrictions apply. Local and national games on YouTube TV. NFL Sunday Ticket for out-of-market games excludes digital-only games.
You're a podcast listener, and this is a podcast ad. Reach great listeners like yourself with podcast advertising from Lips and Ads. Choose from hundreds of top podcasts offering host endorsements, or run a reproduced ad like this one across thousands of shows to reach your target audience with Lips and Ads. Go to lipsandads.com now. That's LIBSYN ads.com. You're a podcast listener, and this is a podcast ad. Reach great listeners like yourself with podcast advertising from Lips and Ads. Choose from hundreds of top podcasts offering host endorsements, or run a reproduced ad like this one across thousands of shows to reach your target audience with Lips and Ads. Go to lipsandads.com now. That's LIBSYN ads.com.
By the way, this was supposed to be recorded yesterday. There was a bunch of audio issues, so I said, screw this, I'm going to bed. I'll just release it tomorrow. I did notice when I restarted it, it seems like the volume is lower. I don't know why it does that. I have the microphone set up exactly the way I did yesterday. It's right in my face. It's just coming through quieter. I don't exactly know why it does that. I'll try to do some normalization after. They got some AI tools, if I remember. But I'm just saying that to say if it's kind of annoying and all of a sudden it got quiet, I apologize. I am new to this. I'm using a new recording thing, which I think does a lot of things better. As far as I know, it's not cutting off my words anymore like Audacity used to do. But there's still some other things that I got to get figured out. So anyways, Chris from Alabama, what's up?
What's going on, Ryan? It's Chris from Alabama.
Been a while.
I heard everybody been out there. I know it's been a minute since I called in. My apologies for that. I have been listening, just haven't been calling in. But just wanted to chime in, man, and just give my thoughts on training camp so far, and contract situation. I know we didn't talk about it really. I don't want to say old news right now, but it's move on time with that. But I know it's still some people kind of upset about the contract. Me, myself, I'm actually glad other contract how it was structured from the knowledge that I know that it's structured. You know what I'm saying? It doesn't seem like a bad contract. And if you're gonna pay him, you might as well pay him why you ain't gotta pay nobody else. You know what I'm saying? Go ahead and get that out the way. And by the time all the wide receivers come up for contracts, it'll be time for Love to get another contract extension. So it really won't hurt the cap. And by that time, the cap will go up. But we all know that by now. Got training camp, man. Preseason game Saturday. Football is back. Might as well say it's back. It's not all the way back to this preseason, but it's back. We got a real game, real live game coming on Saturday. I can't wait. I'm gonna lock in. I want to see what's going on with these rookies that we bought in. All the way down to the undrafted free agents. They're important too. Injuries happen during the year. It might be one of these guys we see in preseason that might say, he might have a little something here that might have to step up late in the season. You never know, man. But excited to see what's going on. Excited to see Packer football. And I'm just waiting for this season, man. I think we're going to have a real good season. I actually probably give a call back here maybe today, maybe tomorrow, whatever. Give a little prediction. I haven't heard anybody give any prediction. I know it's kind of early, so I'll probably say this is like an early prediction, and maybe I'll round back depending on what happens during the preseason and leading up to week 1 and give another prediction. But yeah, man, I expect a real big year. I do expect us to win the division. I know everybody is hype on Detroit, but I'm thinking we taking the division. It's gonna be a two-horse race, man. Minnesota, Chicago. Everybody hyped about Caleb, and he probably might have an alright season. I get him self-made wins, man. I don't think his first year quarterback. You gotta go through those growing pains. So we'll see, man. I ain't studying Chicago, but yeah, man. I just wanted to chime in, man, and give a little thoughts. I'm back, man. I'm back on the regular train.
Here's part 2. We got cut off a little bit. It is good to hear from you again, Chris.
3 minute months got me, man. I forgot about him. But anyway, like I said, I usually try to call in a little bit during the off season. I've been having my head in the dirt. Life happens.
Sure.
Got to take care of your business. So this off season really wasn't that as long as it usually been. Maybe because I was just working so much. Doing these last 2-3.
I feel like every year it goes faster. I don't know why. It used to feel like an eternity, like football, and maybe it's just because there's more that I'm engaged in, like training camp and whatnot. But it used to feel like, man, when football ended, you don't see it again for like a year. It's just gone. Now it's like you feel like you're in the dead period. It's going to last forever, and like, in 4 weeks they start. Okay, interesting.
So, but I'm back now, man, and y'all be hearing from me a whole lot. Especially as the season starts. And like I said, man, I'll give y'all a call back. Give you some predictions on where I think we're gonna end up. And just give my thoughts as stuff come in, since it's a whole lot of news that's just popping up. But anyway, go Pack go. And I'll talk to y'all guys later.
Well, again, it's good to hear from you, Chris. Looking forward to getting some more calls from you. As far as the division goes, yeah, I more or less agree. I mean, if you told me the Lions won the division, I wouldn't be absolutely shocked. If you told me the Vikings won the division, I'd be shocked. Lions, Packers, man, I mean, it's kind of a neck and neck thing. I'm with you. I think the Packers ended the season on a higher note. One of the videos that I wanted to play for tomorrow, which apparently the Packers decided they're going to have a training camp, despite there not being one scheduled. I don't know how that works, so we won't be doing that. But anyways, one of the videos, what he talked about essentially was, look, the team that has the most room for growth is very obviously the Packers. So if you look at, and he was even talking about San Francisco, if you look at it and say Green Bay, San Francisco, and Detroit were all very similar teams. They were all very close and even. which teams are headed in which direction. You feel like the Lions are, continuing to grow, but more or less they've kind of peaked, and now it gets difficult to grow every year. That's what the Packers went through for a long time. It's difficult to get better than what you were last year when you kind of get to the top. San Francisco, I think, is potentially on the way down. We'll see. They never seem to come down. They're very well coached, and they're a solid organization, and those guys tend to stay at the top. But they're struggling. They're potentially losing Brandon Ayuk now, and it's whatever. But the Packers, it was Jordan's first year. It's going to be his second year. The wide receivers are all going into their second year with Jordan, and many of them, it is their actual second year in the NFL. Got a brand new defense. Like everything, that's what happens when everybody on your team is like 24, 25 years old. There's so many people you can look at and say, there's every reason to believe they're going to grow. Anybody can get better from one year to the next. A 34-year-old can get better in year 35 than he was in year 34. But if you're just looking at it from a statistical standpoint, every one of the Green Bay Packers is a guy that you would, I don't know if you'd say expect, but a higher probability of being better this year than last year, as opposed to a lot of other teams where you saw them kind of at their best and you more or less expect maybe they stay the same, maybe they have a slightly better year. More than likely, though, at some point you start to taper off. All right, that was pretty quick, but why don't we take our second break just because we have 3 more calls, and depending on how long they take to get through, we'll just wrap it up with those 3. So we'll take a quick break. We'll be right back.
Hey, Ryan, it's Garrett from Southern Illinois.
What's up?
Just wanted to remind you that even though the offense hasn't really been spectacular, Coach LaFleur did remind us that he's been running everything pretty vanilla when it comes to offensive play sets. So I think it's easier for the defense to dominate when the offense really isn't throwing much at them, to be honest. So I'm not too discouraged by it. I honestly think what I'm really excited about with the preseason game is LaFleur's going to take this opportunity the next few weeks to put a lot on tape for the Eagles have to prepare for in game 1 in Brazil. So I'm really kind of interested to see just what he has up his sleeve when it comes to play calls and what exactly is he going to throw out there that's different that we've not seen before. So this is year 2 for Love, and he's reacting and reading the defense so fast and able to make proper checkdowns and everything. I really think that it's going to be an interesting preseason when it comes to what he throws out there. Other than that, I'll just have to watch the game after I get home after being at work all day on Saturday. But, with it being Cleveland, I get your sentiments about what of a junk town it is. And I've been to the Hall of Fame once for a Hall of Fame game, and I wasn't terribly impressed with the area around it. So, Brandon Ayuk, I really don't understand why he would want to go to Cleveland, leaving a town like San Francisco out on the bay, which has its downfalls too, but for Pete's sake, at least the water's clear and not rusty.
The weather's nice.
So, I don't get it. I'm out.
Yeah, the rumor now is Pittsburgh, and we'll see. I'm still skeptical. You got Pretty Ricky, who's basically supposedly he retired, but now he's out there talking big about Pittsburgh. There's a whole battle going on online right now. It's pretty wild. The insiders are getting a little sensitive. What's his name? Ben something. He's a Denver guy. He's a pretty well-known insider guy. He's got great sources and all that. He's a Broncos guy, but he's pretty national. And he and Pretty Ricky have been going back and forth. Essentially, the one guy's saying like it's done. He's going to the Steelers, and he's saying no, it's not. And then he gets into an argument with Greg Gabriel, who is just the Twitter curmudgeon. I believe he's a former Bears guy. He's online, but he's kind of an old school guy where he's super arrogant and he doesn't really know how to talk to people in today's environment. And so he has this mentality of I am the one who knows. I've been there. I am the one to be respected. And he certainly doesn't take criticism very well. He's made some mistakes. And he just doesn't handle it well. He starts lashing out. He's just lost his mind. I think he one of the things that came out, we're off on a tangent here, but one of the things I was just kind of scrolling through trying to figure out what the heck is going on. Because the other problem is they're not like quote tweeting, so usually you can just follow the thread. They're copy and pasting like screenshots, so I can't like figure out what the heck we're talking about. But anyways, apparently like 4 days before Justin Fields got traded, he was 100% like these. He was arguing with so many people. These idiots think that they're trading Fields. They don't know what they're talking about. He's one of those Fields truthers, apparently. And his inside sources says they weren't trading him. And then 4 days later, he got traded. And so he kind of snapped. It sounds like, I haven't seen him that much, but it sounds like he just kind of snapped at that point. Everybody's been pulling receipts on him and dunking on him, and he's just not handling it very well. So I don't even know how we got started on that. Anyways, why don't we go to Mr. Uncle Rico?
Yo, Brian, it's your Uncle Rico.
Yo.
Hey, I was just hearing you're listening to the pod, making your comments on the family night, and you spoke about Wayne and Larry, the announcers, and yeah, iconic, love them. But I think they may be hitting up there a little bit. Not that I want to get rid of them, but I worry about them a little bit. Last year, they would kind of lose track, kind of like I do sometimes, of their train of thought or the player, or they would like you do a lot of the time. You can't remember a player's name, and then the other one would just kind of let them drown, and instead of like rescuing them, like help me out here, buddy, and like anyways. So yeah, we're privileged to have Wayne and Larry, but I hope they're not getting too old. I should look it up. I don't know how old they are or which one's older, but yeah, we need to get them some of them those. Yeah, see, I need them right now. Some of those memory vitamins. Those. Yep, Centrum. I don't know, something. Go Wade, go Larry, go Pack. Love them.
Well, I haven't noticed it about Wayne and Larry, but what would I know? I maybe I have, and I wouldn't remember because my mind is going. So it's scary. It's really scary. I think it might just be that I have too much going on. There's like overstimulation and whatnot, but I'm missing appointments. I had a meeting with an advertiser that I missed. I had a meeting with the guys from Our Lads, which I did last year. Really cool thing. Got to sit down, talk Packers. I missed that appointment. Now he's not responding to me. It's getting freaking brutal. It doesn't matter what I do. It's like, well, put it in your calendar. It's like, okay, it's in my calendar. And then I don't see it on my phone, or I see it on my phone. I'm like, okay, 1 hour, I have a thing to do. And then I'm going to go off and do my thing. I'm just going to go do something. I'm going to forget in 5 minutes. And then I'm going to be like, oh crap, I had a thing 2 hours later. Like, I don't know what to do about that. I told my wife, I said, if there is a device, if there isn't, I'm going to invent it. But what I need is something that syncs to your calendar and is like an actual, I'm talking not like my phone. I need like a buzzer on my wrist that just like vibrates. It's like, you got a thing. And then it doesn't matter if it has like a visual component that tells me what it is or not. It's just going to spark I'm going to remember as soon as I feel it. Oh crap. So I have let's say you got Packernet derailed, right? It's at 7. At 6:30, I'm like, oh, I got that thing. I'm going to forget at 6:35 that I have that thing. So at 6:50, when that thing starts buzzing, I'm going to be like, oh, there. Yeah, I'm going to know immediately what it's buzzing about. I don't need it to be visual at all. I know what I'm missing. I need that to be a thing if it's not already, because I can't. Oh, just put a reminder in your phone. I have reminders. They remind me, and then I forget. So I don't know what to freaking do, man. And if you set the reminder too close to the thing, then I'm not even there, like what happened today, where I was out on a walk with my family. And it was like, oh, whoops, I was supposed to be home right now, and I'm not. So, memory thing, dude. I don't know I have no idea what to do about it. But yeah, you can understand that being sort of an uncomfortable situation. Like, what do you do if you notice somebody who is iconic is maybe starting to slip. Like how does, I don't know how you have that conversation. You hope that they recognize it themselves and say, I need to step away. Because you never want to have to be the one to say, look, man, I don't think this is working anymore. That's, but whatever. We don't need to get all somber about it. I haven't noticed it, and I think they're going to be healthy and live forever. They're going to live as long as I live because I don't want to ever hear anybody else calling Packer games. So there you go.
Hey, Ryan, Daniel from California.
What's up?
I know, like, we got a lot of competition with safety, corner, right? And I know, like, specifically corner, we're pretty locked in with Stokes as the starter. But with the situation and what's going on, I really like it because they kind of rotating guys in and out, but we don't see the tape. They see the tape, and they clearly know, based on what our offense is doing, who's better at what, right? So when it comes to game planning, even though Bullard might be the starter, you could see a lot of Evan Williams because he's good in certain coverages. And we'll have an idea, Clayton, definitely once we start watching some film from preseason, we'll have an idea, especially, right, of who does what better, right? So if you're playing like a Shanahan offense and you need, to play a specific type of defense like what we did in the Super Bowl, or not the Super Bowl, the playoff game. We weren't in the Super Bowl. But, how we played aggressive, and then, another team where you just, dropping into coverage and just, hitting your spot dropping. Just, whoever's better at each one, depending on how aggressive you need to be, right? Because typically most teams against Mahomes, they play a lot of spot drop, right? Because he'll just dice you up if you're in a lot of man. So, I don't know, it seems to me, but we have no tape, it's just speculation. Like Evan Williams is just dicing up zone coverage. Bullard, I don't know, he's kind of aggressive, so who knows, but just the point is, if it's game plan specific, you'll have a guy who might be slightly better at one thing over the other, and they'll be able to. And they're both good, right? We see it. They're both good. They're both giving Jordan a hard time, so they'll be able to mix and match exactly what we need for the game plan, and I'm all for it. So excited! Go Pack, go!
Yeah, that will be interesting to keep an eye on. I don't know how much I believe them when they say that stuff. I mean, there's obviously going to be some rotation, but I don't know if it'll be as much as they're saying it is. I think it's a way of, in a way, sort of deflecting the question of, like, how can you get all these guys on the field? The answer, more or less, is you can't, and some of them are going to sit on the bench, if not the whole season, the vast majority of the season. And so you say, look, I mean, the way we do things is we mix things up, and sometimes this guy goes here, and maybe we a lot of maybes thrown in. But in reality, at the end of the day, it really is just going to come down to one guy is probably going to win that safety job. One guy is going to win that corner job. I really doubt that Valentine is just going to come in for a certain game and take over for Stokes if Stokes is that dude. I don't think that's going to happen. Not to say we're never going to see Valentine. I mean, if they run out 4 or 5 wide receivers, we're going to need more corners. But I think somebody's going to win the job, and they're going to be the corner, and somebody's going to win the job, and they're going to be the safety. Now, are there going to be sub packages with maybe they throw a safety in at linebacker or whatever? Yeah, sure. But I guess what I'm saying is I don't see games where Stokes is healthy and Valentine's just going to take his spot because we think it's a better matchup, or Bullard is perfectly healthy, but we're going to have Williams taking the job today because we think it matches up better. Maybe, but I would be shocked if that was the thing. I could see it more so at safety just because maybe we don't really have an established guy yet. Less so with Stokes, unless he's just doing a bad job, in which case, I mean, I think if that happens with Stokes and Valentine, it speaks really low of Stokes' future with the team because they want a guy that's just going to win that job and be that corner. So, but we'll see. We'll see how these guys get used, how often they get used. I think a lot of the guys that we talk about in the offseason aren't the guys that we talk about in the regular season, right? There's a huge pile of guys that we talk, oh man, they're really talented and I can't wait to see da-da-da-da-da-da. And when game day rolls around, nobody's talking about them. Nobody talks about that extra corner, that extra safety, that fourth running back, all that. That's preseason talk. But again, we'll see. You never know. we'll have to see what they got in their bag and what they can surprise us all with, I suppose. But anyways, I'm going to leave it at that. You guys have a good rest of your day. I'll talk to you later. Have a good one. Bye-bye.